Hello, most divine beings. Hello, hello. Welcome to Naked Hearts, which is a segment of heart activation. And in this, I invite people onto this video cast to be able to share their personal experiences with life. Now, we all have our own unique experiences that have created lenses of how we perceive the world. And by going through and investigating and learning more about people, we can try to understand why people do the things that they do. And really, my focus and my goal, my intention for this video cast is to really uncover raw, vulnerable heart presence, to have a relatable space with no judgments where we can be like, I understand that. And through sharing our experiences, we're able to open our eyes up to maybe experiences that we haven't seen before. So, with that being said, I invite you to participate in exploring ways that you can understand and relate and open up your perception, open up your mind to new way of seeing things. And thank you so much for tuning in. So I cannot tell you the excitement that I have to have you here.
Thank you. Me too.
Yes, 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 yes. And so I don't know much about you, although I know your magnetic energy and how much you are in love with life, and that and all of the beautiful things that you have to offer, and how you are presenting yourself to be of service. I imagine that you have come across some very well, I'm just curious, like how your journey has brought about you to this space. And so, with Naked Hearts, it is so much about how we, in our childhood, what we experienced, and opening up those hard and difficult conversations for us to be able to be like, yeah, like that's not abnormal, and that those things that we have been suppressing for how many years, those experiences have made us who we are. They have really brought us to being magnetic and being powerhouses, basically. So yes,
Mm.
I'm just, however this flows for you, and however yeah, however that comes about. And if there's questions, I will, you know, I'll pipe in and we'll just let it flow.
Okay.
Yes. So go right ahead. Let's start off with, like, do you have siblings, and have you lived in the UK the whole life, and you know your parents, like what that relationship was like? And
So I was raised in the UK in a place called Ladbroke Grove, which is also known as Notting Hill. And
okay.
it's a place of massive duality. There is abject poverty and vast wealth living shoulder to shoulder. So I was raised in a really exciting and vibrant environment where even though I had nothing, we lived in government housing. My dad was from the Caribbean, my mum's English, and neither of them were educated. There was a lot of drug culture in my house and a lot of violence, but also a lot of love. And we were raised in a very unique way where I had we had parties all the time. So the house was always full. There was people of different ages, of different classes, you know, different levels of economic success, druggies, you know. So I was raised with an eclectic mix of people, which I think set me in good stead. And despite the fact that there was a lot of dysfunction in the house, my mum had who is also a projector, had a very strong sense of the importance of education. So and creativity. So I was able to develop my music skills. She would make sure that even though we had no money, she would go to charities and get classical guitar lessons, or she would get really great schools and get me into the school, you know. And so I was blessed with having a solid foundation in musical skills, in creativity. My art was always promoted. I was always given the space to be who I am. But on the darker side of the story, there was extreme violence and abuse and emotional abuse and sexual predatory stuff and stuff like that. So even though thankfully I got the skills I needed on one hand, I kind of grew up with a lot of subconscious programs and beliefs that were unhelpful to me as I grew into a woman. And so there was kind of cycles that I repeated, and that cycle was the same kind of men. So very violent, very abusive men. Men who were unable to provide. So I would be the caretaker. I was the codependent, you know, the people pleaser. So although I had this very strong personality and sense of self and confidence in some ways to go forth in life and get education, go and do my studies, you know, there was all this. I lived a paradox. So I was living in homeless hostels. I was taking drugs myself. I was numbing out most of my life. But it was only when I found human design that actually it made sense in context, because I thought it was, you know, it depends on the story and the perception that you want to create. So either it's my inner child wounds, my upbringing created a codependent character or aspects. There were aspects of self that was codependent based on my upbringing. There was aspects of self that was numbing out and taking drugs based on my upbringing. But then when I heard about human design and I started to study and understand that I was a projector, I realized that a lot of the things I was doing was based on living as a projector in a generator world and being conditioned to work harder, work faster, work at a pace that wasn't suitable for me to do.
Yeah. Now, will you just go into like being a projector? What does that, I mean, we know because of human design, but like, what does that mean, you know, and people who aren't familiar with human design, like how did you experience that before the experiment, and then how about after?
So all throughout my life, I was taking stimulants, cocaine. Eventually, I got onto Adderall through prescription, being diagnosed as ADHD. Because I was always under pressure to work and get things done, and feeling a big sense of pressure. And in order for me to create and produce at the level of the normal world, I had to work harder and harder than anybody else, and that meant being on stimulants. So being a projector means that we don't have sacral energy, and we're actually here to guide the energy of others. Most of the world, 70% of the world, are generators which have sacral energy. So they are able to wake up in the morning with this bank of energy and create, and they're actually here to get pleasure from their work. Work is what they're meant to be doing. Whereas for a projector or for yourself as a manifestor, we don't have the sacral energy. We can learn to be wise with the energy and use it but we're here to actually guide the energy of the generators. So, yeah, we're not here to work a normal 9 to 5. We're not here to work in the same way as everybody else. So that was one of the main things. But when I got into my own, and the other thing about it actually that I'd like to raise for people that don't understand, anyone who identifies as an empath, it's quite likely, and not quite likely, it's 100% for sure, you have an open emotional solar plexus. So it doesn't matter whether you're a generator or a projector or a manifestor, whatever type you are, we have 9 centers of energy in our body. And depending on your type, you'll either have sacral energy or no energy. But many people have open emotional solar plexuses, and where we are open, we are amplifying the energy of people around us. So when you've grown up in a house of dysfunction and violence and all of these things, you're carrying a lot of that energy with you. And when people identify as empaths, what they really are open solar plexus, open emotional solar plexus. So once you know that, you are also able to start using that energy wisely. So people who are empathic can actually end up going into fields such as coaching, healing, counseling, whatever, because they're able to understand the needs of the person that they're working with. So it's a thing about understanding how energy works and how your unique energy signature works so that you can create an alignment with your own flow.
Yeah, and that's like such a beautiful way to bring that, especially with empaths, because that's like such a huge thing in the spiritual community, or just, you know, in life in general. Like, what does that actually mean? And but like, it's okay, so that means one thing, but like, how is your body with that? Like, what does that mean for you and your truth, and coming back to self? Because everything that we experience in our culture, in our society, is basically untruths. So understanding more about our body and how the energy, our own unique energy blueprint, it works, helps to empower us and to make different choices, and to know exactly, like, that's why I've been using drugs my whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got to Costa Rica, so I burnt out, which most manifestors and projectors do,
Yeah.
mostly by the age of 30, 35, when they've been living that generator life.
Yes.
And I burnt out and also had a dark night of the soul. So it kind of worked at the same time, you know. But I went to Thailand, began to get healing, and then all my channels opened up. So I was connected with my higher self. I was able to get clear guidance, operate in very clear alignment, taking decisions and actions, even though they weren't logical to the external world. It was very clear to me what I needed to do, which actually ended up with me going to Costa Rica and then just deciding to give away all my possessions, told a friend to give back my own government housing, and without any kind of awareness of how I would survive, I just knew this was something I had to do, and I was trusting that decision in the moment. And so when we align with ourselves, we are able to make decisions that are right for us. And so what I wanted to say about that was, it was when I was in Costa Rica that I suddenly realized that this diagnosis of ADHD that I'd had it didn't exist for me.
Yeah.
As soon as I'd cleared out my filters and spent time in nature, in my own auric field, I was able to focus. I was able to focus on things I was interested in. I was completely able to live in my own unique flow. And I was always guided to people, situations, places, things that were important for me in that moment-to-moment situation. So when we stop living the conditioned life, or the life that society tells us that we have to live, and we start trusting our own inner guidance system, our own intuition, and following our body, you can never go wrong. That's, I think, a massive thing about the biggest thing for me in my journey was developing my inner guidance system. And now I don't even have fear because I know that the choices that I'm making, sorry, there's a crow. The choices that I make are always in alignment with what I need to be doing.
uh and that's, and I think that's really important to focus on, though, like that first you cleared out those energy systems, those energy channels, because up in I feel like, and at least for me too, it was until I was able to be an observer in my world, that I wasn't so emotionally invested in the story and playing those out anymore,
Uh,
and I wasn't able to listen and trust my body until, yeah, I was the observer.
Yeah, that was one of the foundation tools that I learned as well, as I began to develop a connection with my inner self. And I call it the inner pilgrimage.
Oh.
So as I began to journey within and release the external noise and start to examine, who am I? Why am I behaving this way? Why do I react to this? Why am I feeling triggered and charged? Why am I judging that person or situation? I was able to build the neutral observer and that strong witness. And suddenly, with that split consciousness, you stop being embroiled in the rest of the world. I began to turn off the news. I stopped focusing things on things that I couldn't control and that I couldn't influence, and focus on what I could influence: my mood, my thought processes, what I was eating, So I started to take personal responsibility for everything in my life. And I began to understand myself as the creator.
So I must ask, how difficult was it, and how long did it take for you to start like really unbecoming all of those things and make those choices where you felt, I'm empowered by those choices?
Crazy, because it was a quantum leap. December the 26th, I'd flown 20, December 26th, 2018, I flew to Thailand. I think the first week of January, because it was my birthday, I'd had some Reiki and I had an amazing healer who did some theta healing on me and took me back to my first wound. From that moment, she said to me, Jessica, you are now connected back to the universe. And I'm like, okay. And then I had ascension flu. It was like the deepest purge I'd ever. I thought I had dengue fever. Went to the hospital, got tested. It was, and at the time I didn't know what it was, but yeah, it was dark. And I released and purged. And then I had some shamanic healing. I just went for healing, and that was it. I was in this place called Orion, and this was all in January. So it was like, very, very quick. And I met loads of people. I was part of a beautiful community. And they said, oh, they were talking about Abraham Hicks, and I hadn't ever heard of Abraham Hicks. I said, what's that? And they said, oh, she channels these entities that whatever. So I began listening, and that was it. It's like I flipped a switch. It was like nothing was the same. Soon as I heard Abraham Hicks, I was like, right, every day, changing my mindset, giving gratitude. I'm going to reprogram my subconscious belief patterns. I'm going to observe everything. I began shadow work. So that was that. And by the time I got back to England, which was 8 weeks later, I was deeply decluttering. I was like releasing so much energy from my flat. And I was happy as well. I was happier than I'd ever been. Because the healers that I'd come across on my path had released so much. I had entities. They'd done the bulk of the work, and it was a switch. And so it was very quick.
Entities. So like, I'm so curious too, when we hear entities, what you feel in for what do you feel and how do you define entities? Because that comes up also a lot in the healing and clearing work, when and so I'm curious as to how you define that for yourself.
There are so many definitions because there are different types. So there's internal entities, your own emotions, your
Mm.
own inner child beliefs and ideas. So there's the internal ones. There's familial ones, so like beliefs and thought forms that don't belong to you and energy. And then there are external ones. So and like physical, like non-physical energies that were attached, that are discarnate
Mhm.
entities, basically. Um, so yeah, there's a variety. Some that you can evolve yourself, some are thought forms and behaviors, patterns that you've taken on or created to protect yourself, and that are no longer serving you. Um, so yeah, but when it comes to discarnate entities, or attachments, that you can that are easily formed when you are walking around in an unconscious, like you're not clearing your energy field, and if you're taking lots of drugs, you're open to things to attach to you. But
Yeah.
mine were actually ancestral. They were linked to my familial line. So yeah, that's what I mean. But I the main thing was, as soon as I realized, like, it was just literally a flip of a switch, I suddenly realized I was 100% responsible for my whole. As soon as I heard that I could create my own reality, I was like, right, I'm creating my own reality. And I forgave everyone. I looked back at everything. I understood very deeply that I had soul contracts and my life journey was here. Everything was beneficial to me. Nothing in my life was problematic to me. I look back at every single thing with gratitude. And the phrase that kept going through my mind was grace and gratitude. So that whole of 2019, every time like I would do hashtags or whatever, or write on the beach, it was grace and gratitude. And it's like it was a moment of grace, and it was a very clear choice point in my journey
Hmm.
that was, I think, predestined. So people say, this or that, but I believe it was like, okay, now's the time.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Yeah, I resonate with that fully. And it's really fascinating to me too, because that was about the time of my, like, unbecoming or awakening was January 2019. Like, from the beginning of it was about September, October of 2018 to 2019. And the same thing with Denise. She kind of got back into like studying human design in 2018, 2019. So I'm like, fascinating. Because yeah, and I love hearing like how it was for you, because it was quite different for me, and that's beautiful. I just love hearing the different experiences. Like for me, it was like, I was very confused, I think, like I didn't, um, I don't, I feel like I knew I had a lot of generational trauma, but I didn't really understand what that was or how that could even be. Like I didn't know anything about DNA or epigenetics, or, that you can change your genes and how your things rewire. Like I wasn't aware of that. And so learning about human design especially was so phenomenal to learn, like, oh, when actually your mom is pregnant, like you start to take on some of those things. And so very fascinating. Now some of the questions that I have, like when you were growing up, so your mom and your dad, were they married or did they get divorced, or like?
My mum was with my dad. My dad, when I was 18 months old, my prison for selling heroin. And so they weren't married, but they'd been together for 11 years.
Mhm.
And when he was in prison, his first cousin, who is a sociopath, moved in with my mom, and they got married. And so she was with this man for 11 years before she finally had the courage to leave. Um,
Mhm.
so that's what I grew up with. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I love hearing that she completely supported your art and your creative outlets. Was there any spirituality or religion or anything in there?
Strangely, my mum has always had a strong connection with the divine, but
Mm.
no real knowledge, like not no real knowledge of like where the connection came from. So anyway, because she wanted to get me into a good school, she ended up um going to church. So we ended up going to church because yeah, so in England, the best schools are church schools. So
Mm-hmm.
so yeah. So thankfully, anyway, we went to church. It was Church of England. It's pretty cool, you know. They're not nuts like sorry to if I offend anybody, but they're not like evangelical Christians
Yeah.
and pretty evil. Like I've been in a Christian cult as well, which is a whole new story.
Yeah.
And but yeah, they are pretty open-minded and not really church wasn't a problem. It wasn't like an uncomfortable place to be. It was like boring, but
Yeah.
it was what it was. So we went to church to get into school. Years later, my mum, who finally went back to education because she had no education, no career, went back, I don't know, when I was about 15 or 16, and she started to do school, like GCSEs, A levels, university. She got a job in the parish office as an administrator. And then she started singing 444 all the time and people started saying to her, I would come to church if you were a priest. And she ended up going to one of the most prestigious universities in England called Oxford, studied
Mm.
theology, and became a Church of England priest, which she now is. Yeah.
Wow. That is so beautiful.
Yeah. So it's really
Huh.
interesting because we have my mum, who is a spiritual leader, teaching, doing the best she can to teach the message of, and she is about love. Like we come up, we talk about it all the time about most, like I'm always saying that most people aren't Christians. You know, the Christianity doesn't, no one embodies the actual teachings of Christ, and we speak about it all the time. And then you've got me, who's like on the shamanic path, on the healing path, and we're both projectors, and she's a 5-1 and I'm a projector 1-3. It's super interesting. Yeah, it's lovely that she can honor and respect my spiritual path and I honor and respect her path, and we both do the same thing but in different ways. We both teach love, you know, and empowerment.
Yeah. That, yeah. And I mean, that's just so stinking cool. That is really very like, oh, wow. Like, I wonder. So her parents, because my whole wheels are turning. So your grandparents, like on your mom's side, were you close with them at all? Did they have a part? No.
No, so my grandma died when I was really young.
Okay.
um my grandma was an orphan and was raised in a nunnery.
Oh.
And my mum was a product of rape. So my grandma was raped and my mum was conceived. And so there's been a lot of ancestral stuff that I've actually done, a lot of clearing, a lot of healing. And
Oh.
addiction has gone through the whole line. My great grandma was a prostitute. You know, there's so many
Mhm.
interesting things. Uh,
Yeah.
and this mother wound was a thread that came, you know, obviously came from the abandonment that my grandma had had in her mum down to my own personal mum, because of my mum had a lot of neglect in her own childhood as well, because
Mhm.
my grandma didn't know any better, you know.
Right.
And then there was this a lot of emotional unavailability, even though my mum was also, again, it was very paradoxical, like super love, but she's a projector. She doesn't have lots of energy. So raising children is, and plus with lots of CPTSD and stuff going on, it was difficult. But when I came back, so I'd had the year traveling and I came back thinking that I'd finished, like I was emotionally, I'd expanded and I was this emotionally intelligent. And it was like, boom, now you're going to go deeper into opening your heart and you're going to do some real healing on the mother wound. And the relationship we'd had was kind of strange, quite estranged, strange and estranged.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but she invited me back to live with her when COVID hit and I was in Malaysia and there was nothing I could do and I had nowhere else to go. And came back and we've built the most beautiful, deeply loving relationship. And so lots of healing has got, and now she's healing her own mother wound. So amazing. It's been absolutely fantastic.
So it's like you're able to really be there for each other now, you know, and really being able to get, do you live with your mom?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's so healing. I got like goosebumps all over when you were talking about that, because for the divine feminine energy to come through and really like also the wild fierceness through that all, you know, and not only the soft and graceful, but also the wild and the darkness to come
Yeah.
through and ravage through all of the, it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
You're doing some really beautiful like soul workings there with your mom.
Mm-hmm. Feel so blessed. And this is again, when I looked at Gene Keys, and it was only a few months ago that I began
Mm,
my life work is gate 54-1
mm,
ascension. It's the highest city.
yeah.
And so to get to that point on my evolutionary path, this depth of work and this opportunity to really heal this family line has been amazing, an amazing opportunity.
So now with your father's side of the family, do you have any contact with any of them, or?
So I went and met my grandma, my dad's mum, in 2003. She lives in the Caribbean, and only once. When she died in 2016 or 17, one of those two, 17, I think, my dad had already died in 2012. And when he died, I had to cremate him because I just didn't have the cash at the time to bury him. But it all worked out really well. And so he sat on the top of one of my cupboards, and I really didn't know, I couldn't like be certain of where to bury, like to lay his ashes. So when my grandma died, I flew to the Caribbean and buried him with her, and managed to carry to 3 different countries because I was in Portugal, then Italy, went to Amsterdam to fly to Curacao and carried these ashes all the way through without problem. And when I got there, they were like, "You carried all these ashes, all these countries," and I was like, "Yes."
Yeah. Um, and it's cool. I mean, you kind of got to travel with your dad then too. And I mean, in a way, you know,
He comes to me in dreams all the time. Like both my gran and my dad are frequent visitors in my dreams. So it's like just the connection's super strong.
that's really cool. So you feel good in that connection too, like
Yeah.
not good, but healed, I should say.
Yeah, my dad was a beautiful man. Like he was a real, like everyone who knew him sensed it. I think he was quite an evolved person, even though in the 3D realm he seemed to be dysfunctional or living a completely like an unconventional life. He was also deeply loving, very gentle, very forgiving, and he just emanated love. Like it was just unconditional love. So, you know, um, yeah, it was a really, a really beautiful human being.
So no siblings or
No,
anything.
I do, I do.
Oh, okay.
I've got a younger brother and an older sister who's not by blood, but she's my stepdad or brother's dad's daughter. But because he is my dad's first cousin, we're actually second cousins anyway. So
Okay.
her grandma and my grandma were sisters.
Okay. That's okay. Oh, I love love it. Like, it's just, family dynamics. It's like, I don't even understand where it became, like, what is the normal and why is that what a normal is anyways, and that's really what I like to bring to the forefront is everybody has shit that they don't necessarily talk about or that they do, and I like to bring all of that to the forefront. So yeah, that is beautiful. Because I think that happens a lot where it's like, oh, my family dynamics are less than, what you would see as normal. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. So now when you had your, like, what did you view yourself being, like, and when you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? I think I know the answer to this, but let's.
There were two things that I wanted to be.
Mhm,
Firstly, it was a singer-songwriter, so a musician, or
mhm.
the prime minister. So I wanted to lead. I wanted to I was deeply into social justice. I was aware of things I wanted to solve in the world. And I knew that if I was in charge, I could resolve it all.
Yeah.
So prime minister was one, but music was like, I wanted to be a pop star. I wanted to be a singer. And I'm a really great singer-songwriter. I was writing really deep songs at the age of 9. Like the levels of the lyrics were really profound. But then as I grew a little bit older, I wanted to be a philosopher or writer. So it's always been around creativity.
Hmm.
But I am a natural teacher, and I was invited into teaching. Um, so all of it still works together, and I feel like the roles that I'm actually designed to constantly evolve anyway. I'm never going to be one thing, and I'm just going to keep evolving and building and drawing on these things, learning new things and creating beauty, art, new perceptions, teaching. So it's all connected.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's just as we're talking, and has anybody ever told you sound similar to Amy Winehouse?
Yes.
Yeah, like I hear it all the time. You are so gifted though. Like just like I said, yeah, you give me chills and your singing and your lyrics too. Like you said, they're very powerful, potent, and the activated. Your voice is very activating for sure. Like you said, you're a catalyst, So I remember you saying that. I was like, you are. I can feel it.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So yeah, all of those things are so put together because I mean, you can do so much with music and healing that just kind of go hand in hand. At least, I see that they go hand in hand. So where do you see like where are you now and where do you see yourself evolving into this? Like where would you like to take all of this? The gifts that you have and what you're approaching on now.
Right now, I am helping healers, energy healers, spiritual entrepreneurs to raise their wealth frequency by transmuting their skills, talents, and abilities into their financial equivalent. So I'm doing that by helping people to create businesses online by clarifying and crafting their messages, learning how to communicate, clarify, and communicate their value, learning how to develop their self-expression and create lives and service, which is an expression of their divinity and their art. And so, because I have years and years and years of teaching skills of English, communication, and what I'm doing now is helping people to step into their highest frequencies, live as authentically as possible, using their human design, using their gene keys to create aligned businesses which are sustainable. So really, I see myself at this point helping to create a new paradigm for the way we live and the way that we function. Obviously, living as a projector in a generator world, I know that we can live in ease. I know that when we're aligned, we get all the things that we need. So I'm moving people out of scarcity, out of survival, into thriving. how can I thrive in and connect with the abundance that I was my natural birthright through the power of my skills and my talents, making money, being in service, and being creative with it. So that's what I'm doing. And that's because I know that it's possible for us to live a different way and create society in a different way and an alternative way, which is for us to make great money, to live in alignment with our energy blueprint, to create lives by design. So lives that where we can have whatever it is we want, you know, we want to have, whether we want to travel, whether we want to be digital nomads, location independent business, sharing, growing. I want to have retreats. I want to live in tropical places. I want the freedom to just wander the earth, doing what I love and going with the flow. And helping others to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's also so many other things coming through. Okay, so now you and I obviously we live far from each other, and also this is how I see businesses, and especially what we do is more of like the online and the virtual healing and stuff, and being able to come from all over the world to the retreats and whatnot. So yeah, I feel that's huge for us. I mean, is that how you feel? Because like for me, I don't, especially as a manifester, I don't see myself seeing clients. Like I don't see myself as a one-on-one healer in person. Do you see that healing is more so being taken, you know, like people are doing it online more or remote?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, yeah, all of the work that I do is remote, and I began as a spiritual healer and doing healing and energy work, but now I actually create packages where I help spiritual entrepreneurs to release that energy, release old limiting beliefs. I've designed a range of modalities, and it can all be done remotely. So I'm not a one-on-one healer. I mean, I just don't have the energy for that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So it's part of my packages and the work that I do. So if I'm working with someone to build their business and they've got limiting beliefs or subconscious programs that are blocking their success, self-worth, whatever it is, we can clear that. So it's part of a package. But the idea of retreats, I'm not averse to. It's not on my radar right now. And a lot of what I'm doing, well, I'm a producer. Like my main knowledge, my main skill set is being able to produce things, workbooks, teaching materials, where I can share my knowledge in a wider way, so people can be self-empowered, self-healing. So I've got tools, and they can take those tools and do it themselves. So I'm building a whole passive revenue process, which people can work with my knowledge and my skills in a variety of ways, which frees me up to then create more and do what other things I want to do. But yeah, retreats, I see, you know, I want to help, you know, if I wanted to help people with their music or their writing is really key for me. And just having fun. Like I'm really into connection, people, like, you know, having high level retreats for spiritual entrepreneurs to create 100 grand offers, like £100,000 offers, or being around like-minded individuals where we get healing, where we do our physical work. So for me, there's 4 pillars. There's physical, subconscious, conscious, and energetic. If you're going to be successful as a spiritual entrepreneur, you need to have your physical body sorted. You need to have your mental body, your subconscious mind sorted, your conscious thoughts, your conscious beliefs, your conscious habits, and your energetics. So how you're creating on the quantum field. So building retreats that support mindset, support soul, support strategy, I could see that as something that I would love to do.
Yeah.
living in beautiful places.
Yes. I know. I'm just like, as you're talking about all of these things, so many ideas are just being sparked. And so that's how I get distracted. I'm like, oh, all of these fancy, shiny things there, but they're in my head. So, I guess the question too that I have now, and coming back a little bit, is how exactly did you get into human design?
Again, inner guidance guided me in that direction. But in 2019 September, I was in I was in Thailand, and I was at a fruit party.
What's that?
people,
What is that
people,
exact?
people just eat fruit. It was just a
Okay.
picnic where people eat fruit. And this guy called Moshi said, "Hey, do you know your design?" And I was like, "No, I'm a manifester. Do you know what type you are?" And I was like, "No, I'm a manifester." And he was like, "No, no, you're not. Let me look it up for you." So we did it on his little computer, and he's like, "You're a projector." And I'm like, "Oh." So he gave me a book, and I began to read the book, and I was like, "Oh my God, this all makes sense." But by that point, I was still doing energy training, I was shamanic training, all these other things. It wasn't like I need to do this. Plus, I was like, I knew I was connected with it, but it wasn't the right timing. So it was only in 2020 or 2021 that it was 2021 that I met a mystic, and the mystic was like, "Hey, do you know your design?" And I was like, and I'd already been learning marketing, messaging, online, like how to build an online business, and doing like things here and there, classes, developing intuition, art, using art and drawing to connect with the higher self. Um, and when I looked at it again, I was like, oh, this is what I need to be studying. This will be the tool that connects everything I do. So as soon as I accepted that, the universe provided all the tools, the training, etc. And that's how I got into it. That's how I began my path as a human design guide.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. Because I didn't really, so you didn't start off with astrology, because I feel like well, maybe not. No, okay. Because that's how I kind of came across human design, was like astrology. And I was like, there's got to be more. Like I already knew, I was like, if each planet has their own energy and they're each communicating at a certain thing, and we're born at this exact time, there has to be a way that our chakras are influenced. Like I like intuitively knew that there was a different energetic blueprint than just the astrology.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fascinating, because then Gene Keys came about, which I actually resonate more with Gene Keys just because of the narrative and the flow with it more. I find, and then, Denise has really opened me up more to the intuitive human design aspect of it than being so rigid with other things. So
I agree.
that's been
Yeah.
beautiful. So in all of this, yeah, I mean, it's just like such a beautiful story. And so what I really love about this is because I I know that you have been through some shit, and I don't need to hear all of it, to know that like you're super empowered through all of that, and um which is different, because some people really like, and which is beautiful for them and also their story, they like to share a lot of the gory parts of it as well, which is okay, because I find myself doing that, but also finding that people help get empowered through that too. So what am I getting at here? I guess mainly just I really appreciate you like showing up for humanity in general. And again, I don't, it's so funny how you and I like connected, because I'm not even really involved in that human design, like entrepreneur. Like I just
Mhm.
like to be a part of things and not really participate. And so whenever I read your post at like, it was super late for me. It was like 1 a.m. I was like, yes, me. It's like a full, I run onto your profile and I was like, this is her. Like, I love her. I don't even. So, however, Spirit was working through us to connect, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed because, some of the most profound connections have been just through ways like that, and I feel so deeply we really build each other up in ways,
Mm.
that I haven't yet experienced. So I'm very excited to see how this unfolds.
Me too. And I feel like immediately as soon as I met you, I knew it was a soul aligned connection. I felt like I knew you. I felt comfortable with you.
Yeah.
Like, I love you. So,
Yes, I know. I love you too. I was like, yes. And you're so fun. It's just like all of it. It's just, yes,
yeah,
beautiful.
thank you. So, thank you
Yes.
so much for having me on your show.
Yes, I'm so grateful for that. Absolutely. And for opening up and creating this space and yeah, just showing up, just being here. So thank you.
One thing I will say is that I have had so much abuse, so much experience of violence, and the best and most beautiful thing out of all of it was knowing that it was I learned how to love myself and how to see those experiences as mirrors of my own belief systems. So that's really what I I mean, I've had rape, I've had robberies, I've just been in so many crazy situations. But what it got me to do when I began to look at that, I got to see this was a reflection of my beliefs, of the subconscious programs that I had been raised with. And I love it because it gave me a deep sense of self love.
Mm.
I was able to really learn to love myself and choose a different way of operating and choose to build a strong connection with what I desired in life and a different path. So that's really the key thing. It's like when you look at that, yeah, you can when you and looking at others, that anything that's in your life that's an external reality that you don't like, ask yourself, what would I have to believe for this to be my reality?
Could you give an example of that?
So when I'm had a partner who was in my house, I'm working 70 hours a week, I'm a deputy head of school, I'm earning great money. I've got a partner in the house who's not earning any money, who's living off me, who is violent, who is disrespecting me, who makes no sense to live in my life. The question
Mm.
is, what would I have to believe about my self-worth, about what uh, about what love is, about emotional availability, like intimacy that I'm open for. That was a mirror for me because he was showing me my own unavailability. He was showing me my own lack of self love. He was showing me my codependent patterns and beliefs. The fixer. Oh, I believed that I was here to fix others. I believed that I was
Mm.
here to save men who were not able to save themselves. And that's because my dad was like that, you know? And so that's what I mean. Like when I looked at that situation, I was able to understand what I needed to evolve within myself and change within in order for me to create an external reality that was congruent with the truth of who I am.
Yeah, and I mean I'm like it does, right? Like it's for me it's easy to be like, yeah, totally. And then there's also people who are like coming straight from addiction or straight from this abusive relationship. Like, how do you even begin that process, like, because what worked for you,
Yeah.
we don't know what's going to work for somebody
Of
else,
course, no. And again, I attribute it to the healers.
Mhm.
Again, as I said to you, my whole path was very mystical. Like it wasn't. it wasn't normal. It wasn't logical. It was like, go to Thailand. Okay, go to Thailand. Uh, get a healing from this particular person. Bang. It was immediate. I
Yeah.
can't describe. It was like everything changed.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very unique. And that's why I say grace and gratitude.
Right.
It was like, boop.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that is very unique. Yeah. To have those awesome and very profound mystical experiences. Yeah. And even if you were to try to explain it, like you can't, it just goes beyond any words. It's just
Yeah.
the experience. So yeah. And the reflection of the relationships and creating that in yourself, because that is huge, because that's for everybody, you know, not just intimate partnerships, you know, just everybody, how we create our world. So
I think for me as well, my path is about empowerment and it's about self-love. I'm here to, my design is a lead, like I lead by example. I model love, and the lowest my Mercury gate is 10, and the lowest form of that is self-destruction, a lack of self-love. So obviously my journey, in order to get to that highest path, all of these experiences were part of the trajectory. Like my soul chose this to evolve to get to that point, you know. But what was I going to say on that? It was the yeah. In order to be able to teach others, I had to go through those initiation. I call them initiations.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about my path as well. Is like, okay, so if I'm here to be a leader and a way shower, it's like I had to experience the full pendulum swings of life in order to be there for all life, you know. So absolutely,
Yeah.
I completely I see that now. And yeah, I think it's a beautiful experience. And you know, yeah, I could really go down a rabbit hole with like, oh, but I think, yeah, us just coming together, especially ones that have been through it all and just continuing to empower from within is all we can do is enough. It is beautiful. It is more than enough.
Yeah.
So anything else you would like to share before we close this out?
I just want to say to anybody who is in a really dark space, to I wanted to die as well. Like when I was having the dark night of the soul, like I suddenly realized, like I was like, that's it. I've done everything I've done in my life. I've tried to do well. I've been a teacher. I've worked hard to help people, and I have never been loved. I really, and it was I was like, and so I'm done. I'm done with all of this. I'm exhausted. I'm done. I can't see a way out. But again, a magical person came to me at that moment and said, if what do you want to be, do, or have? So if money were no object, what would you be, do, or have? And I wrote, and I began to write and write and write, and that was a slow journey before the December. So that was November.
Okay.
So I would say to anybody who really feels like there's no hope in their lives, there is hope. And go deep within your soul and ask, what do I need to do to release myself from this situation? What change do I need to make? And know that within you is love. You are love. You are very powerful, and you have the ability to transform.
Yeah, the surrender, because that, yeah, that is so, it's very powerful, very powerful. Thank you for that. Yeah, let that penetrate. I'm like, that's because, yeah, that's just very powerful. So thank you so much. Oh my gosh, what just happened?
I don't know. I'm here.
Where, yeah, where are we? Oh my gosh, how do I do this? Okay, I'm coming back to you. So I went to, there we are. There we are. Okay. What are you drinking, may I ask?
Just Spirulina, if that's how you pronounce it. It's just green powder in some water.
Yeah, I drink that too. I love it.
Okay. Yeah, I've been on a new regime. Oh, my phone. What's going on? Um, I've been taking probiotics. I've been taking ashwagandha and ginseng.
Mm-hmm.
No particular reason. Like there was no reason for it, but I just felt guided to do it, so I started it. I'm not like anxious or lacking focus, but you know, I follow my guidance,
Yeah.
so I started doing it. I've been drinking moringa every day, just 1 glass a day. Cacao. In fact, the beginning of Lions Gate, I got off coffee and just started drinking cacao. And it was like, you know, because I'm working on my heart center, there was new layers that were being cleared, and
Yeah.
so that whole period, again, so yeah, I've been drinking raw cacao, spirulina, all this health stuff, and I feel great.
Yeah. That's really fascinating too, because I have added in spirulina and blue-green algae. Well, all those like heart-centered colors, you know, a lot of it, it's very teal. So a lot of it has to do with the throat chakra and the heart chakra. So being in your,
Yes.
you know, so yeah, very
I got a tremor of truth there. So my higher self said yes to that. And
yeah.
I'm fully goosebumped.
I love the tremor truth. That's, I haven't heard that before.
It's my line. I call it the
Okay.
tremor. It's my line.
Copyrighted.
Got
Got it. Yes, it's going in our book of words here. So awesome. I will also with when I post this and do your little blurb, because I write up a blurb next to this, I will put your website and or how to contact you
I
in
have
that
no
as
website.
well.
I have no website at the moment.
Okay.
I'm actually running a business through purely social media, and I've been successful. And so, like, I'm doing everything unconventionally and in my own way. Although I will eventually have a website over the next few months. I'm gonna not have a website, but I'll have Newsendler. So I'll have a landing page and access to my courses and stuff like that. But yeah, you can give people my Facebook group or my Instagram page, Jess_Mindset Alchemy. That's it.
Okay.
Jess_Mindset Alchemy on Instagram. That would be the best way.
Okay. I will I'll probably yeah, I'll gather all your links from like Facebook, also all your groups, and then also connect to the Instagram as well and put that all through. Also, I have I've tried to use Snipfeed, which I'll share with you because it's a free platform, like a landing site that seems to work really well. I have a website, so I guess I don't really need that, but so yeah, I'll send that to you and see if that's something you're interested in, if you feel aligned with. But awesome. I will link all of those below and how to work with you or even just connect with you if need be. So wonderful. Again, thank you so much. And we will chat soon for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll talk later.
Thank you. So much
Yes.
love.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.